Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool.
I want to start, I just read this and it was hilarious on Wikipedia. I don't know who wrote the Wikipedia article, but it's hilarious. It was talking about Hobbes' view on slavery.
Okay.
And it's, sorry, not Hobbes, Locke.
Right.
Hobbes, I can imagine, would have a different, more straightforward view. It said, so what they wrote was, it's hilarious. They said, Locke had a very multifaceted and complex view on slavery. Although his writings in general, and his philosophies and everything, were against slavery, like they denounced slavery.
Yeah.
He owned shares in Africa's largest slavery organization. So it's just, slavery's bad, but it makes me bank. I mean, if you're not in the system, how do you know the system's corrupt, right? It's like Vosh says, you can be a socialist while still benefiting from capitalism. You can be against slavery while still benefiting from slavery. Right? It's not a contradiction.
Be against war and still be a war profiteer?
Yeah. Actually, now in Vosh's case, I'm actually going to be on Vosh's side that he doesn't have a choice. Like, he wants to be socialist, but he can't be, and that's not his fault. So I don't actually blame him for wanting to profit within capitalism, because that is the way you get ahead in capitalism. So, fair enough. I don't actually blame him there. But with the war profiteering thing, I just didn't want to be unfair to... I have plenty of things I can be against Vosh on. That I don't need to use such a low straw man. So, I don't remember his name, but I think he's like the most evil man in history, so I'll not say... Sorry, that's how I meant to phrase this. He's the most evil man in history, so I will not speak his name so that he becomes more famous. Not that I forgot it. That's not what happened. But the guy who invented the Torches of Freedom campaign... So, he's working for a cigarette company.
Yeah.
And they had something like 40% of men, 42% smoked.
Yeah.
And like 2% of women smoked. And they said to him, hey, there's a massive market for cigarettes. We just can't figure out how to get to them. And so he said, okay, I'll see what I can do. So there's a big feminist rally in the 20s. I think it was the 20s.
Yeah.
And so he went to all the feminists that were going to go in the march. Organized, and he said, hey, here's a great idea. You know, men, they think they're so powerful. They got these cigarettes. They're a sign of authority and domineering. It's the manly thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the parade, just strike up a match, light cigarettes and smoke them. Light up your torches of freedom. Show everyone who the boss is. And he basically doubled cigarette usage with one parade. However, there was still a problem. The company, I don't remember the company, it might be Marlboro, but I don't remember which company it was. Their cigarette case was green and red.
Yeah.
Women didn't wear green. Green was unfashionable. No, women didn't touch green. That doesn't hold true today, obviously. No. And it might be his fault entirely. Because they said, we can't, women aren't buying these because the case is, doesn't look good. You got this green case with your standard 1920s, I don't know what they wore, red and blue maybe. Outfits. So
lavender.
Women don't want to be seen with these cases. It doesn't look fancy.
Yeah.
So the marketing department said to the design department, hey, can you just change the color scheme, make it pure red, or make a women's package and a men's package, or do something.
Yeah.
And they said, we've spent like 60 years on our brand. This is our logo. We want people to recognize us. We want to become famous with our logo. We're not going to abandon our principles for fame.
Yeah.
Says the cigarette company.
We're selling cigarettes here, not our principles.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would be an amazing business meeting to sit in on. And, so they didn't want to, it was, I can understand you founded your company on something and you don't want to change it just to sell more. Like, this is our symbol. Look at it. This is us.
Yeah.
So they said, no, we're not changing the symbol. What can we, so it's up to you. And they said, well, we can't just make women, like, green is not fashionable.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. You don't wear green. So they went to the same guy who made the Torches of Freedom ad, and they said, okay, we need your help. Is there anything you can do? And he said, okay, I'll see what I can do. So there was a gala happening, kind of like the one that happened recently.
Yeah. Where
all the rich people go to be looked at and praised for being rich and being looked at. And so he went, I
mean, they're apparently for charity.
Yeah, but they're to be looked at. I mean, look, if the charity's getting the money, which I'm not sure it is really, because those charities might just be funneling back into the people. I don't know. But if it is going to charities that are doing good work, then I don't care. Like, if you want, it's the same idea I said where the better tax system would be you're allowed to just stick your name on anything. Like, you just pay $10,000 to stick a plaque on a building or something, or put a statue of yourself in the town square.
Yeah.
Like, I am for that system. I think that's a great idea.
A statue of Elon Musk at every school.
Yeah. If he wants to donate like $10 billion to make it happen, then yeah. And you could, like, income tax is, look, let's not get distracted. So he went to the organizers of this gala, and he said, I got a great idea for the gala. Make it the Green Gala. It's an alliteration. It's great. Make it a theme. So we'll put up a big green banner. All the pamphlets will be green. And we'll say everyone has to wear green. So the women, you have to buy a green dress. Men, you got to have like a green handkerchief or something like that.
Yeah.
Green handbags, green.
Women, your whole outfit has to be green. Men, your little pocket square needs to be green.
Well, a bright green suit would... I don't think it would work.
Batman, you must answer my riddles 3.
I don't think he actually even went to the men at all. It was just for the women mostly, I think. But looking where it... I don't know the exact details, but it was mostly the women he was targeting. So he said, okay, we'll have like green tablecloths, we'll have green napkins, we'll have...
Green food.
So it'll just be fun. It'll be like a big green event.
Yeah.
And then all the richest, most influential people in the United States, all the women especially, wearing green. It's, oh, that looks good on them. Like, if they're rich and famous, that must look good. Emperor's clothes are great looking.
Yeah.
So... green became the most popular color, or like the second most. I don't know if black has ever been surpassed, but became the most popular color.
Yeah,
like overnight after this thing, and so women were like, "Oh, this is great." So this man who did the Torches of Freedom completely convinced women smoking is great, but then there's a fashion issue.
Yeah.
Convinced them it was fashionable.
Yeah.
His wife smoked.
Yeah.
He spent 30 years trying to get her to quit because
Oh.
he hated smoking. So,
and he hated the color green on his wife as well.
He hated green. I think for him it was a puzzle to be solved.
Yeah.
It was, can I do this? Can I crack? He's the inventor of marketing.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that why you call him the most evil?
Yeah. He's the inventor of modern marketing.
Huh.
And he was a genius.
See, I think what's happened to marketing is people get cynical ridiculously fast. Like, it's just a fact. Like, people get cynical far too fast. And so old marketing, like, why marketing is whacking and keeps changing. People are cynical of the old stuff, and like, it no longer works. And so you have to keep going further and further. It's not like, oh, this is more effective. It's, no, that just doesn't work on people anymore.
I think, so I've been watching, because the more I learn about marketing, the more I notice ads.
Yeah.
Especially on YouTube. And I've been, because for some reason, I'm fairly neutral. I get just ads.
Yeah.
They think I live in Ontario. They think I'm like, I don't know, French half the time, because I get a lot of ads in French.
Yeah.
I get a lot of ads for children. I get a lot of ads for women. I get a lot of ads for people buying houses. So basically all age groups.
Yeah.
Not old. I don't think I get ads for old people so much.
I do.
But basically 12 to 40, anything within there. That's all they know about me. I'm between 12 and 40 for some reason.
Yeah.
Or they know a lot more about me, but they don't know what I like, it seems, for some reason. So I see a lot of different general ads, not specifically targeted ones, where I might actually be interested. So I'm watching more the ads for the construction of the ad rather than the ad itself. And I've noticed so there's Volkswagen has released the Tiguan, and a new car. And their ad is how to Tiguan. So that's how it starts. How to Tiguan.
Yeah.
And then it shows a dad driving his Tiguan home.
Yeah.
And he sees some teenagers doing skateboard tricks.
Yeah.
And he thinks, like, oh, that's pretty cool. But he's got to drive his kids to the pool.
Yeah.
And so it shows the Tiguan has this huge amount of space. So he sticks in his new skateboard he bought. He sticks in his kids' pool stuff. And so their whole ad is, don't give up on what you love just because you have kids.
Yeah.
Which, in one way, isn't a bad message, but it's also, the way they phrase it, it kind of makes it a self-centered message, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't don't give up on your hobbies just because you got these annoying. They make kids a burden almost. And,
Huh.
like if you look at it that way, right? That's
Yeah.
one way to look at it. Another way is you can have kids and have a great time,
Yeah.
which is a much more positive way to look at it. But I think you don't have to give up on your activities when you have kids. Is not the way I would phrase that to make it. I would say kids are, you could put it something more like, keep doing what you love
Yeah.
and bring the kids along or something. I think you could do it a little bit better. So what they've done at the start is how to Tiguan. They're trying to make Tiguan a verb.
Yeah.
They want to become the Google, Google it online.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you Google something on Bing, and it instantly, if you use that phrase, I don't think many people do, but you have made the assumption that Google is the default search engine.
Yeah.
That Google, so even if you know very little about computers and someone says, oh, just Google it, you go, okay, I'll get the Google, and there it is. And I think that what has happened, and I could be wrong here, but I think you go to marketing school,
Yeah.
and they tell you this stuff, like, look, Google's very successful, Kleenex is too successful
Yeah.
for their own good, the Hoover was too successful for their own good.
Linoleum.
Linoleum, yeah. But they talk about these ideas of if you can make your product a verb or a noun, the thing people do.
Yeah.
You Hoover, you Google, you don't Kleenex, but
You get a Kleenex.
yeah. So actually, I think Hoover's probably fine because it's not. You don't have. Well, you do have a Hoover as well. I think you Hoover around with your Hoover. I think.
Yeah.
So that's a bit confusing, but I think what happened is the marketers, the young bright marketers, they see this and they say, in my first ad campaign working for Volkswagen, I'm going to implement what I learned in school, and I'm going to first principles aim for the big bucks, because I think I think companies do make it. Some companies they go all in and their ad becomes popular. But it is kind of weird how it's kind of like they're throwing darts in the dark. Like they're so scattershot.
Do you want to know something interesting about basically most companies that produce products and have marketing firms? Within the company, besides HR, the second most hated department is marketing.
It's about compromising your vision, isn't it? Because it's
well, so for example, you make a car, and this car is amazing, and then marketing comes to you and says, that car needs more space in the back because we're trying to give this to families. And you're like, what? And your engineer's like, what?
I think it's worse than that. Like, let's say you work for Apple.
Yeah.
And you make this beast of a computer that uses almost no energy, produces no heat, super lightweight, so it's easy for people to carry around.
Yeah.
And you bring it to the marketing and you're like, check out this bad boy. And they're like, okay, so I guess we can say it's got nice rounded corners and it's white. But what about all the features? Well, I don't think people are looking for those features so much. Because marketing, they go for the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So it's insulting to basically everyone. Because, look, if someone's a 15 and someone's a 12, your lowest common denominator is a 3. So if you want to get both groups, you need to be on a really, really low level. So you can't really blame the marketing department for aiming for that. But it's really insulting to everyone.
Well, one of the most depressing things I think that happened because of marketing and sort of stark consumerism. So the original ads for nylons is like, this was an actual video ad. So there's this woman and she has her like nylon stockings and she looks very regal in them. And she gets into a truck with her husband and they're driving along and they see someone in the ditch. And so she takes off her nylons. They get out of the car, they tie it around his hubcap, they tie it to the front of the person's car, and he pulls the person out of the ditch. And that was one of the original ads, is these things are indestructible. And then like some departments, we're never going to sell any more of these.
Yeah, people are going to buy them once.
So they asked the chemical engineers, can you make these things weaker? And the chemical engineers are basically, we just spent 5 years of our lives making these indestructible.
And it's not so much the wasted time, so much as they're probably proud of their product.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
look at this thing. It's beautiful. Why do you want to ruin it? I imagine a lot of iPhone engineers are like that, where they create these, basically the most advanced technology we have.
Yeah.
And they're designed to fall apart.
Yeah. Well, so there's a light bulb in a fire station that's been running for something like 50 plus years or more. And it was just an alternate filament. It's like classical light bulb with a filament, but some crazy guy, like actually crazy guy, spent 20 years refining master's light bulb, and he only ever produced one, and no one ever bought them, like his design, because they lasted too long.
You know,
And it just hasn't stopped running.
well, if your story is accurate, I don't know how much hyperbole you threw in there, but if it did take him 20 years to develop this better light bulb, then you can see how it could have fallen to the wayside.
Yeah.
The ones I really hate are the ones like nylon, where they made the better product to begin with,
Yeah.
or they made it simultaneously. So they said, okay, we can...
Well, no, they actually, with nylon, they started adding acids to it to, like, break down the material. Like, they were figuring out how to destroy nylon in its production. So you produce good nylon, then you destroy it.
So with nuclear reactors, for example, actually, they had like 20 different designs submitted, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe even more. And they chose the cheapest short-term one. Not the ones that would last the longest or that would be cheapest long-term. They chose the cheapest to build up front.
Yeah.
And they, like, that meet their minimum safety standards, which were quite low.
Yeah.
Because the next step up was much safer for cheaper in the long run price, basically.
Yeah.
But they went for the cheap upfront one because it looked like the best bid right there.
Yeah.
And so they purposely crippled their technology just to save a few bucks.
Yeah.
And
Well, you're only going to be elected for 4 years.
yeah, that's probably part of it, actually.
That's a huge part of it.
It does. There's always a downside to something, isn't there? Like, it's
Yeah, well, so that's why when your project's getting selected, you don't want politicians, you want the bureaucracy to do stuff with you, because bureaucracy lasts forever.
they're never going to leave.
Yeah, you want to work with bureaucracy, not with politicians.
Which
Because politicians only look forward to the next 8 years or so.
you can, like, it was Roosevelt's fault in the United States that presidents aren't allowed to have more than 2 terms. He's the guy that pushed that because he himself was thinking, I'm way too popular.
Yeah.
This needs to stop. So he
didn't want to be a dynasty ruler.
Washington had a similar problem where
Well, didn't they want him to be king or something?
basically they wanted to elect him until he died, basically, but he stepped down. He's like, I'm done.
Mm.
I've had my share. I'm done. So he did one of those rare things that Cincinnatus did, Washington, Cromwell, George who?
Well, I mean, he did slightly different. There's a king who stepped down in England.
Well, Cromwell did. He wasn't a king.
Yeah.
Charles II did, but he was forced to. I think it was Charles II. There was like a revolution, and they.
No, I'm thinking about the guy who stepped down so he could marry a commoner. That's a little different. It's not on the line we're talking.
Yeah, no, it's more along the lines of
I've had enough.
I won't be a tyrant. So a king can't do it because it's their job to be a tyrant.
Yeah.
A king stepping down isn't a good thing. That's a bad thing. That's them chickening out. Whereas an elected ruler,
Yeah.
or in Cromwell's case, a revolutionary,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just. Actually, where is it? Venezuela? The generals have stepped down like every time, but they take over the government like every 5 years.
That's the same with Hungary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Hungary. So Hungary will run for a bit. Then the politicians get corrupt. People become unhappy. The military steps in, has a coup, takes over. Then they put someone else in charge, and then they step back. And
So obviously they're doing a terrible job.
yeah, well, then it's like 10 years later, the military has to step in, take over, put someone else in charge, and there's a period of Hungary where that just happened like clockwork. It's stabled out a bit for now.
Yeah. So the benefit, of course, is that you don't have someone who's just stagnates the country or through corruption and manipulation stays in power forever.
Well, there's also the thing about
like the president of Venezuela.
a second-term president of the United States has something very different than a first-term president, which is they no longer care.
Yeah, they can do it. They can actually do the stuff they want.
Yeah.
Which
Which getting a president to the second term actually means that they'll do things.
So on the downside, there's no long-term foresight.
Yeah.
On the plus side, you don't have Trudeau for his 4th term or whatever it is now.
Yeah. Third.
I thought we had like a weird short one.
Yeah, we just had that. That's the third. He's had 2.
You know, he's like one of the longest reigning prime ministers of Canada ever.
Really?
Yeah, we have a pretty bad track record of keeping them.
I mean, we have some that last ages, though.
Well, Harper did, and King,
Yep, and John A.
and Trudeau. Like, they're all kind of up there. Like, it's basically a gap. There's the ones that last for 15 years, and then there's the ones that last for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be many that last just like 8 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, for 2 terms, it'd be 10 years, wouldn't it? We have it every 5 years.
Yeah, I've gotten confused about that because
We have it every 5 years, but they got quite often called in the 4th year.
But
Five
then,
is the absolute maximum.
yeah, that's what I learned in school. But then I heard by hearsay someone say it's actually 4 for us as well. It's just weird,
It's not 4.
but that was just weird hearsay. So I will take it with more with more reverence than I would something I learned in school, because it's amazing how powerful someone saying actually this is the real thing is. Maybe it's just me, but I am convinced by dissent. So if I see a random YouTube comment that says actually this
Nothing is fake.
yeah, then I'll go, ah.
This photo of the moon landing, not real.
And I think what's going on is it makes me feel smarter.
Yes, it does.
So, because I know that everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
Like how, what I read in my book, the guy who has a compulsion to state that oak is actually white whenever people talk about it. It's just one of those guys at parties that can't keep quiet when they say, oak's black. And well,
Yeah.
actually, oak is white, but it has it. And yeah, so it's very convincing to me.
Yeah, it was just, again, the problem does arise even then of, like, how long terms are. It's just, our system doesn't work in some ways.
I don't know.
In some ways. It's weird, because...
Are you saying it's too short or too long?
No,
and are you talking about Canada or the United States?
I'm talking about democracy is weird.
Right.
Like I don't actually like the statement, it's not good, but it's the best we got. Because I think it can serve. It's just, it's like a technology. Like, in Civ how you can advance your policies and your culture? I feel like in some ways we sort of stagnated the advancement of...
Democracy?
Yeah. Although, I mean... In a different term, if you look at a scale of history, it actually takes really long times for those to advance. Like, really, really long times to go from chieftain to theocracy to kingdom to empire to democracy.
I was going to say, Canada's current political system, well, let's see, it would have been around 1918. Was it after World War One or two we received full independence?
Two.
And... we got Newfoundland. Well, that was 1867, maybe. Yeah. So even if you go back to the founding of Canada, that's only 200 years.
Well, Canada Day isn't actually based on the founding of Canada. It's not based on the independence of Canada. Canada Day is based off of the unification of all Canada.
Yeah, which is 1867.
Yeah.
But Canada's independence from the UK was only 100 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Maybe even less. And the United States is one of the older democracies. It might be the oldest democracy. I'm trying to think of an old...
Well, there's the monarchy, the elected monarchy, and the democracy of the dukes.
Yeah, but democracy is by the people, so it's not an electorate. Like the Holy Roman Emperor was electorate, but that's not a democracy, because democracy has people in the name. It's ruled by the people. So the United States, that's 1777, 6, 3, something like that.
Yeah,
that's not that old even.
Yeah.
And I'm going by oldest existing.
Well, Vatican
monarchy.
A significant amount of the population of the Vatican does elect.
I don't think the cardinals are from the Vatican necessarily, so I don't even know what you call that. That's, well, the electorates, you weren't from the country you elected in.
I guess so.
Malaysia, I think it is, has a very interesting system where each of their provinces is ruled by a king, and all the kings support an uber king or something.
Huh.
But I think they're a democracy. I don't know how the whole thing works, but it's really interesting, some countries out there, what they have going. But most countries were monarchies, and many still are. And even countries like Canada and Sweden and Spain and Norway and Portugal, they're all still monarchies technically.
Yeah.
But the ruler just doesn't step in.
No.
I was actually thinking about it. Two countries that there's only really France has got to be an older democracy than the States, but I'm not sure I would call France stable.
Yeah.
Well, actually, are they older? Because they reinstated the
They had that
royalty
very short
in
period.
like 1817 or something for like 2 years.
Yeah, that very short period because they can't decide.
And they had an emperor for 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's not really a democracy. And but so I was thinking about it though. So monarchies are order,
Yeah.
obviously, and religion is a form of tradition and order. And the two countries, this is availability heuristic, I could be way off here, that have completely rejected both monarchy and religion.
Yeah.
If you can think of another one, please say. But the two countries that have completely rejected monarchy and religion are Russia and France. And shortly after both of them did that, their histories turned very messy.
China did.
Well, that was with communism, though, wasn't it? Oh, I guess that counts.
It was a complete rejection of tradition. The Great Leap Forward was the destruction of history.
But the thing in... why I would say...
Mao is responsible for the reinstatement of Imperial China.
What I'd say is different about...
Sorry, not Mao. Ping is responsible for the reinstatement.
Xi.
Yeah.
What I would say is different about China would be it was... As a result of the revolution, they eliminated the monarchy and religion. Whereas in Russia and France,
they eliminated...
They rejected the principle of religion, and then they rejected the principle of monarchy.
Yeah. And
then things fell... Well, actually, it was... So, in France, I think they rejected monarchy first, and in Russia, they rejected religion first, I think. And so it was in stages, whereas in China, it was a full-blown revolution.
Yeah.
Whereas in Russia and France, they just killed the...
Well, that is something to be said is...
China was a civil war.
Yeah, and also Mao was trying to be like Russia. Like, Mao was constantly, hey, Russia, look how much we are like you. That was the production of iron. Do you know about that? So, China was producing tons and tons of iron. And it's like, look, we produce a lot of iron. We're like you, Russia. And the iron they were producing was literally people... taking already existing iron things and bringing them to the forges to be reforged into crude iron.
That's so...
Just to show that they had production. So it was actually like a false front of production for the whole country.
That's very sad. But that's also very anti-Chinese.
Yeah.
Like, China doesn't want to be like anyone else.
Well, so she moved away from that. Like, that's one of Xi's big things, and she disagreed with a lot of Mao's ideas and principles.
Well, apparently everyone did if she was able to get away with it. So yeah, that's the difference, I guess. China was a civil war.
Yeah.
Russia and France were revolutions.
Yeah.
They just killed the monarchy. There was very literal relative collateral.
Yeah.
I mean, the Reign of Terror obviously is horrible, but it wasn't... The entire National Guard was killed by Japan, and then the communists, whatever they were called, Confederate People's Front or something, just rolled over the scraps and killed everyone that got in their way.
Yeah, I guess Japan sort of had a rejection on monarchy.
Though they still have an emperor.
Yeah, well...
So I'm not going to say they...
So, do you know the last stand of the samurai was a civil war? It was between the emperor and the shogun.
Yeah.
And that was the death of the shogun, was the final civil war of Japan. And so that's when all the samurai were beaten by the imperial army.
But would be daimyo or just a shogun?
The shogun.
Aren't daimyos higher?
No. There's daimyos and then there's the shogun.
I thought shoguns served daimyos.
Might be. But anyways, it was like the military power and the imperial power fought, and the imperial power had guns.
So why can't you build on hills in Japan?
Because even if you beat your enemy in war, the law still stands.
But it's the shogun's law.
Yeah, it still stands.
I think that's such a cool system they have there. It's actually similar to a republic that the United States has, where the founders create... It's actually very similar to religion as well, like Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism. Well, not Buddhism, but most religions. They say, look, we figured it out, follow the rules.
Yeah.
And people just have to follow them from that point on. And what you can do is you might think this is very arbitrary, but that doesn't mean you disobey it. It means you learn why it's not arbitrary. And but I think it's really interesting that the shogunate was destroyed, apparently, like you said, and yet the edicts of the shoguns still stood.
Yeah.
Because for those that don't know, any law a shogun passed is still obeyed to this day. I mean,
Yeah.
theoretically.
It's obeyed until what is reasonable. So you look at the reason behind it and you follow it because it's a good law.
So
But even then, there's exceptions within the law.
the most famous, well, sorry, not the most famous, the most impactful one in Japan is you're not allowed to build on hills.
It's on mountains.
Yeah. Well, sure. They don't have mountains.
It's on volcanoes.
They have Mount Fuji. but
Not being up a Japanese mountain, they do have mountains.
But you've seen the hills they're not building on. They're tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, but I guess they're bigger than the like slopes and rolling. So anything that looks like it sticks out of the ground noticeably, you're not allowed to build on, basically.
Because they're covered in trees.
And so they're not, and it's really weird. You can go into a massive city, maybe not in Tokyo, but in basically any other city.
Yeah.
And Kyoto is a great example because they're very traditionalist. And
If you walk over the valley.
well, if you just stand in a skyscraper and look out the window, you see dense city. And then just random green hill. Dense city, random green hill. Dense city,
So
random
Kyoto
green
is the case. It's actually within a valley. So when you're in Kyoto, if you're on High Point and you just look around, it's suddenly there's hills with trees on it. It just surrounds the whole city.
Yeah, and of course that's partly touristy because they want tourists to come to their only surviving.
Well, also, the
city.
farther north you go in Japan, the more mountains there are and the more forests there are.
And I don't actually know many of their edicts because I think they're very individual. Like there's one, it's the only other one I know about is there was some stream that a shogun said only the monks are allowed to drink from, but they must maintain or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's still respected because it's just this little, very small, out of the way place.
There's another one which is no river shall not reach the sea as water must be renewed.
And so that's why they have all those
That's why
waterwork things.
Yeah, no, like Japanese rivers are actually construction.
They're
projects.
all artificial.
They're reinforced. So it was a river,
Yeah.
and then they reinforced it so the river would never move.
All the rivers are canals.
Yeah, the river will never move. It'll never deviate. It can drain their cities.
Never erode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they basically made it so the rivers will always work, and that was the edict of basically saying the rivers must flow.
They're actually very similar to dwarves from Lord of the Rings, where they don't. What did Gimli say? We will not alter the Helm's Deep. We will improve it.
Yeah.
We'll just
show us beauty.
Yeah, we will rub away a few rough stones here to show the gems more clearly, and we will put lights to better to better illuminate the caverns. But we won't carve tunnels through things. And Japan is very much like that. They so I guess they lost part of their tradition.
Yeah.
Although the shogun would almost be more of a, because a king is almost divinely appointed, whereas a shogun is more meritocratic.
Well, what's really weird about Japan is they're kind of a vassal of the United States still. And
So is Germany.
Yeah.
Of the UK, I think.
Yeah. So, but what's really interesting is if the United States was to release that vassalship, it's basically they have a binding document, it's a contract that Japan can't have a military, Japan can't do several things. So if they were released from that, the emperor would actually regain full control of Japan and be its ruler. Because he still is technically the ruler, it's just he must give all power to the parliamentary system in Japan.
And Japanese people live for a long time.
Yes.
Longest on earth. He's just biding his time.
Also, so the Japan Avian military, they have the defense force.
Yes.
Japan has the...
They're allowed to defend themselves.
Yes, Japan has the largest not military in the world.
So...
During
Napoleon's time, he conquered most of Europe.
Yeah.
He was stopped at Russia, but he even took a decent amount of Russia.
Yeah.
And one of his biggest acquisitions was Prussia. And Prussia is one of the few powers in history that has been able to equal France.
Yeah.
France has always been stronger, but Prussia, well, except World War One and Two, but World War Two. World War One, they held their own. But so Prussia was forced to become part of the French Empire, and they were limited to an army of 10,000 men.
Yeah.
So they would recruit 10,000 men, train them up for several months, maybe get them in a little bit of active combat, and then fire all of them. And then they'd hire another 10,000 men. And so what they did was they trained 200,000 men to be soldiers without ever breaking the rule of you're only allowed 10,000 men. And so when the final push against France came,
Yeah.
Prussia suddenly had a massive trained army out of nowhere. Because France was like, we don't want them to be able, because France and Germany, they're ancient enemies.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they're also the same people to a degree, so
Yeah.
kind of funny. But they're like, okay, we're going to restrict them. We're going to put hard limits on them so they can... So Japan, I think, is probably doing similar.
Well, Japan, they can make an army that's fairly big, the defense force. But so how the defense force works is basically what you're doing is impinging on Japan's sovereignty. So if you attack Canada, you're impinging on Japan's sovereignty, and so they're allowed to defend themselves. If you basically any place they have alliance with is if you attack it, then that impinges on Japan's sovereignty.
But they've declared Taiwan a protectorate, right?
Yeah.
Which you can't do that. That's another country's province, right? I mean, they don't consider it. And
Yeah.
I'm not...
Well, so Taiwan's a little different because basically Taiwan is a great jump-off point to attack Japan from. And so if you hold Taiwan and you're considered a threat to Japan, then that's impinging on their sovereignty.
But let's say Japan declared Hawaii a protectorate. And so they put their military in Hawaiian waters. In the defense of Hawaii, because it's...
Well, so
you can attack Japan from Hawaii.
As long as the United States allows it, Japan can do it. That's basically how that works.
But Japan can build a military against any nation on Earth as long as they say, we uphold their right to sovereignty.
Yeah.
And Hawaii, actually, is one of the more rebellious states.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the case if Japan wanted to try his luck with the U.S. again.
Yeah, but they would lose to China as well. So they just think they have the U.S.'s backing, I guess.
Yeah, that's part of that. They also have Canada and Russia and France and England and Australia. And over the past several years, Japan has basically said, hey, can you protect me? Hey, can you protect me? Hey, can you protect me? They've done that with everyone they can.
So we live next to this dragon, and we kept poking it in the eye, and so can you protect us?
We stopped poking.
Yeah, we just brutally murdered its children in front of it, and then we stopped. We're good now. So can you protect us? Because he's scary.
I mean,
he doesn't like us for some... I don't know why, but he doesn't like us. The
people of Japan are not the people of then, and same with the people that were attacked. Although, man, if you go into...
It wasn't that long ago. They're still alive, on both sides.
If you go into Korea's ancient history, and you hear them talk about the Japanese, they were terrified of the Japanese fleet's landing.
No, Japanese, they were bad to... Well, I guess China was taking the brunt of it, but everyone on that coast.
Yeah.
Because Japan, for their entire history, has wanted the mainland.
Yeah.
And they think Korea is their land.
Yeah, well, Korea, in ancient history, Korea got attacked, and there's a massive Japanese force was sweeping up the coastline of Korea and heading in. And the Koreans' navy then destroyed the transport ships, blockaded the port, and basically the whole country of Korea, not just the soldiers, but the people, rushed the army because they were terrified of the Japanese taking over. And they pushed them back towards the sea, and then the navy fired on the soldiers of both sides, just trying to get rid of the army because they're so terrified. And there's this coastline which basically commemorated for a massive slaughter in
Can't
Korea.
we just give them Kamchatka and everyone's happy? Except Russia. I mean, Japan took it at one point, I guess, from Russia. Yeah. And how did Russia get that back?
They took it.
I guess they just never surrendered?
Yeah.
Because Japan was winning the Sino-Soviet War.
Yeah.
But I guess Russia just did a Russia and said, yep, war's still going.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you took all our land, you took our capital, but the war's still going. Good luck holding the country.
Yeah, well, that's very much the same thing that happened in Iraq. Was that the place?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yeah.
Well, if you want a bigger example, Vietnam.
Yeah.
They have been conquered for decades at a time or centuries, and they don't surrender. Yeah. They will...
disappear into the jungle.
Yeah, and then China will have control over them for 200 years.
Yeah.
But they're still Vietnam, and then they just throw China out, and they're still Vietnam.
Yeah.
They just go underground. I mean, Japan's like that too, really. That was the worry during World War II, was Japan will never surrender. So that was why they used the nukes in part. I think they also used them just because they wanted to show Russia, hey, look what we can do.
Yeah.
And
But marketing.
yeah, kind of. It was. I think it was. There's a couple parts. It was we need to stop Japan because.
Yeah.
And if we just slowly burn them to death, they're not going to surrender because they won't notice. We have to do something big and flashy. So that was one aspect of it. But the other aspects were we want to see what this does.
Yeah.
Which is the sort of military curiosity. And then the other aspect is...
We want to show the world we can do this.
Mostly Russia.
Yeah, mostly Russia, but the world as well. It's don't push this around because we have these.
Yeah, because Russia was their ally, but the United States was aware that Russia was the strongest force in the war for the entire war.
Yeah.
Until the very end, maybe. And the United States wanted to say, hey, look, we're the big guys on the block now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird that France just crumpled. Like, I guess they were just too set in the past or something, but they historically, they have always been the strongest land force.
Yeah.
In that region. Obviously, China is another story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of weird how they just...
well, with World War...
And Mongolia.
World War One, they actually got stopped in France.
Yeah, France did fine in World War One, but World War Two, they just...
Well, World War Two, part of it was they didn't want to go through World War One again.
Well,
like, it was brutal.
And the... Well, also, like, Kiesling, he surrendered, but then a huge amount of the French people kept fighting.
Yeah, but if you don't have the proper support of your country... And also, technology was a big key part, is Germany had a war machine that they hammered basically Europe with. And they had more advanced tanks, but they also had techniques to use the tanks. They did a lot with it. And when the Maginot Line fails so spectacularly as well...
Yeah, well, I think Germany was the only country that was actually ready for modern war. Yeah. Everyone else was still stuck in the Napoleonic War.
Yeah.
Even after World War One, they hadn't fully learned their lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But Germany was the one country that thought, you know what, let's update everything.
Yeah.
And then I think other countries eventually caught up. But Germany had that...
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, they had that 2-week advantage where they could... And even then, Germany bit off way more than it could chew.
Yeah.
Like, attacking Russia was insane. Especially since they had a truce with Russia.
Yeah.
It could be, and maybe this is already known, but they were probably thinking Russia was going to betray them at some point.
Yeah.
And they thought, Russia's obviously stronger than us. Our only hope is to betray them first. Because if Russia attacks us in a fair fight, we will lose. If they surprise attack us, we will be dust within seconds and we'll have to do an absolute surrender. Mm. But if we attack Russia first, maybe we can get a peace deal.
Yeah, we can grind them into a longer peace.
Yeah, or but what if Russia the whole time was like, yeah, I like Germany. Good friends.
What's this? Why is Japan eating our butt? 1 second, Germany. We have to go check this infection out.
But it was... So one thing it's not entirely related, but with World War One, the British conquered Constantinople. They took it from the Ottomans.
Yeah.
And the Turkish rebellion happened right around that time. Mm. And the Turks took over a massive amount of land, and they founded Turkey.
Yeah.
And they killed all the Armenians. And they got Istanbul? That part I don't quite get.
So, about after World War One, the British started a policy of, it's so much effort being an empire. Good day, deal with it, we're leaving.
I just think they would have given Constantinople to Greece.
Well, so you know how the United States basically, like, there's a big conflict. The United States comes in.
And they get stuck.
And they get stuck. The UK, basically, around World War One was the last time they did that. It's like, all right, it's dealt with.
We're done.
Now, leave it in tip-top condition, chaps, and we're off.
So I wonder what they did. Like, I wonder if they handed it off to the Turks because they were the closest, or if they were like, we're withdrawing, whoever takes it first come, first serve, or if they gave it to Greece and Turkey just took it because Greece was nowhere near as powerful.
Yeah.
That's also, the Ottomans, I don't know how long they're an ancient empire.
Yeah.
They had enough Turks within their empire for long enough that they were able to... Like, Turkey's got to look out for the Kurds right now, because the Kurds, I think they're the second biggest group in the Middle East, and they don't have a country.
Yeah.
They're spread out among, like, Syria and Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and if they want a country, they have a massive army down there, right? Like, they were the main people fighting ISIS, right?
Yeah. You don't want to attack Turkey.
Why? They'll make your money worthless? Let's take your ice cream back.
Turkey's just one of those countries that's a nightmare to hold for any amount of time. Like even when Turkey was under the Ottoman Empire's control, it was a nightmare to manage. It's like one of those provinces that just sort of keeps being annoying.
The more I learn, I think everywhere is like that. Like,
Yeah.
the British have the Irish and the Scottish.
It's like that unless your values are close enough and it's like the idea of casus belli. Like in your opus house, you have casus belli, you take over. So one of the huge parts of taking over some places when they have slightly smaller kingdoms is your nobility actually having a right through bloodline, and that made it easier to adopt because it's just whatever. But eventually when people get settled enough and you take over people, so Malzin, right? I guess it's a bit switch, but Kellenbad had the idea of when you take over a place, you basically let it run as is, but it's just under your empire. And the Romans had that. They had the Pax Romanus.
Alexander the Great did that.
Yeah, Alexander the Great did that. And time again throughout history, whenever there's been a conquest, it has not been annihilation, or you don't have a situation like Pax Romanus, eventually people will try to rise up again, and you either at that point have to go for annihilation or some form of Pax Romanus. Like, I think it's always happened like that.
But the thing about Alexander the Great's empire was his empire fell apart very shortly after his death because they were still their own countries.
Exactly.
And they had no longer had any... So you kind of want to try
Alexander the Great was the glue that held together the Alexandrian empire. Rome, held the Roman Empire together. So it wasn't a senator in Rome. It was the city of Rome. All roads led to it. It was the infrastructure, it was the idea. The Roman army came. So Alexander was a man, but Rome
was an idea, I guess.
Yeah. And so, actually, here's the case. When the city of Rome fell, you could call that the death of the empire, is when Rome fell, because the idea was on Rome. Whereas when Alexander died, the idea was on Alexander, and then it shattered to pieces.
So I was thinking about Alexander recently, actually. And so Philip and Alexander, Philip being Alexander's dad, were both two of the the most powerful men of their time.
Yeah.
Both of them died far before their time, both very young. And in both cases...
Is possibly foul play?
I don't know, but more what I'm thinking is their right-hand man, as it were, was the same person. Olympia, Philip's wife, and Alexander's mom. So, I don't want to be a crazy conspiracy theorist here, but she was in charge of the most powerful empire behind the front men of two different men, right? Who both died very young.
Yeah.
As if maybe they disagreed with her.
Well, I mean, in Istanbul, that place you're talking about, is
Theodora?
Yeah, Theodora. Like, anyone who disagreed with her husband...
Constantine,
anyone who disagreed with Emperor Constantine...
I think it was Constantine.
Or who was his political rival, just died or disappeared. There's no coincidence. I mean, he could have been the one doing it, but it's just...
But it is very strange that they were both in dangerous jobs.
Yeah.
But neither of them died on the field of battle.
No.
I think Philip had a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
And I think that's how... Maybe he did. I think it was just a heart attack. But Alexander, we're unsure. We think he had a nosebleed or was allergic to alcohol or something. And drowned. Something like that. Aristotle poisoned him. Something along those lines. Just a little suspicious. Oh, and then here's just a random thought I had about the Roman Empire, because you mentioned them. So Augustus Caesar was a very, very smart man. Right? Yeah. I was reading one of those comments that, they're absolutely convincing on the internet.
Yeah.
That they just say, actually, this. And they argued that Augustus didn't know about Jesus, because Jesus was just a little thing in a far-flung corner of the empire. But Augustus was a very smart man, right? Mm-hmm. And you're telling me that he didn't notice during his reign that the calendar flipped from 1 BC to 180 1 year. He was just like, he flipped over his calendar and suddenly it went from BC to 80 and he didn't realize Jesus existed. No, I don't buy it. he was a very smart man. He could have figured out that something happened. He might have not known what BC and AD stood for, but
I'm very sure those are conventions long after the fact.
but he figured it out, I'm sure. So, Apre Domine, after God? Or the year of... No, Anno Domine, the year of the Lord. What Lord? What? But I started my rule 30 years ago. What Lord is this year of? And before Christ? Who's Christ? Hey, Pilate. Pilate. Who's Christ? I think actually he was... I think one story is Caesar executed him for that or something. Like he was not happy with the death of Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know how much about that whole thing is true because actually I've been reading that book, the
Secret Teachings,
of all ages. The whole story of Jesus is a little very similar to basically every other solar deity, which we know, of course.
Yeah.
But up to the point of the crucifixion maybe not have happening at all. Like Jesus might have lived to an old age and people might have confused his teachings of a crucified solar deity with him. And so he talks about, like, he thinks Orpheus might have also been confused. Like, Orpheus was a teacher, and then people confused his allegories of the underworld with being Orpheus himself. And possibly...
well, I mean, so much time passes, who knows?
Well, have you seen the Ohm series that Mr. Samuel Streamer did?
No.
There is a great example in there.
Ohm as in the first city?
Ohm.
Yeah, Ohm as in the first city.
No, that was
Oh.
No, Ohm as in the...
Olmexis?
No, as in the Omega, as in the symbol for resistance. So Ohm is a architect, which is the highest technology. He's an AI with technology that far surpasses humans in RimWorld. And he was shot in the head by a Scyther, which is the robot enemies.
Yeah.
Destroys his brain. So gives him trauma savant. So he's as intelligent as ever.
Yeah.
So he's got like 20 intelligence, double passion, and no limit on his intelligence. So he can go up to like 40 intelligence. But he's forgotten all technology. So he starts from nothing and goes up through the tribal age, through the medieval, through steampunk, through industrial, through spacer, ultratech, all the way back to architect. He builds his way back up.
Yeah.
And so what Mr. Samuel Streamer does in his RimWorld playthrough is he has he set the time so that people age 18 times as fast.
Yeah.
So... And he also has mechanics for people to have children and give birth, and they raise their children and they grow.
Yeah.
So as Ohm is researching these technologies, much faster than humans ever did.
Yeah.
But still, it takes something like 10 in-game years or something to complete the playthrough, or maybe 12 in-game years. So 300 or 400 years pass, age-wise.
Yeah.
So these characters that join his colony, they have children, they die, their children grow up, those children die, they grow up. And it's really fascinating because it shows like a society, and it built, and the size, he actually, as he gets new buildings, so they start in this hut in the center of the map.
Yeah.
And then he builds a castle, and he builds industrial houses for each citizen, and then he has to convert those houses into a nuclear power plant, and and so it grows and grows and grows. So there's one colonist from the very beginning called Arcadius, who... So it's the second colonist he gets.
Yeah.
Is a guy named Arcadius. And Arcadius sleeps with every woman that enters his colony and has a child with them.
Yeah.
And so it just becomes the joke of, whatever he says, he'll say like, oh man, Ohm's been hammering away at the wall all along. Well, Arcadius has been hammering away at something else. Like he'll do just those double entendres constantly with Arcadius.
Yeah.
So Arcadius eventually dies.
Yeah.
And they bury him, and because he's the progenitor of the entire next generation.
Yeah.
There is no woman that hasn't had a kid with him, basically.
Yeah.
And I think even some of those children he had kids with. Like, he just has kids with everyone.
Yeah.
So Arcadius is just known for having a lot of kids. It's just a funny joke. And so they bury him in his tomb, and he has a little funeral for them.
Yeah.
And shortly after the funeral,
Yeah.
a meteor strikes the tomb and destroys everything but the tomb itself. And it's this solid obsidian meteor.
Yeah.
And so he's what? It's a sign from Arcadius? So he rebuilds the tomb out of obsidian.
Yeah.
And he builds an obsidian statue of Arcadius, and he calls Arcadius the Obsidian Saint.
Yeah.
And So he's this legendary figure. And Arcadius was also a master crafter. He was very
Yeah.
good at crafting. His children are actually better at crafting than him, but he was known to be like the best crafter during his entire time alive. So he's considered the greatest crafter of all time because all of his children, they have someone that surpasses them.
Yeah.
But Arcadius never had anyone that surpassed him.
Yeah.
So his dynasty, the Deimos dynasty, because it's Arcadius Deimos, continues throughout all the generations, and all of his kids are similar to him. They're great at crafting, have lots of kids, and it becomes this horror. Like the family tree is a family bush, and he just becomes desperate for new blood into his colony. He just captures everyone he can, and time goes on and on and on and on, and he eventually, and just every time there's a meteor, it just seems to occur when there's something that Arcadius wouldn't have liked. And so it's like it's like, why have you forsaken us, Arcadius, when it like destroys a building? So the story of Arcadius becomes a legend organically. Like the Mr. Samuel Streamer isn't trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's just it lines up perfectly every time. And so it's like, oh, Arcadius this, Arcadius that, and people, there's a giant obsidian statue of him for 400 years. People are like, what is this of? There's just this saint. It turns out Arcadius had a cortical stack embedded in his neck because he was a refugee from the Empire.
Yeah.
So when Ohm, right near the end of the series, is able to research like unbelievably powerful technology, he remembers and this is like he didn't do this. Arcadius just spawned in with a cortical stack, but Ohm researches cortical stacks. And he's like, and then Samuel Streamer's like, so I'm gonna check out that mod. I don't actually know what that is. So he extracts it from Arcadius's corpse.
Yeah.
Because Arcadius' corpse was only a sleeve. So Arcadius is actually immortal. You can give him a new sleeve.
Yeah.
And so it's basically his brain is in a chip, not in a body. So he resurrects Arcadius.
Yeah.
And gives him wings. And like he makes the body the perfect body using every bionic he can. So he gives him wings, he gives him the raw vacuole so he never ages. Yeah. He gives him enhanced tendons, bones made of adamantium, that sort of thing. And so he becomes this perfect man who, at the end of the series, flies away with Ohm into space. And so he was just a guy who had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But over 400 years, and a series that only lasts about a month, you actually see a legend emerge. Mm-hmm. And now in every series, there'll be, like if a meteor strikes a wall, he'll be like, why have you done this, Arcadius? Or, oh, thanks, Arcadius, needed some gold. Because he became the most legendary character just through chance, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's like Yorkshire Farmer.
He did two things. He had a lot of kids and he was a good crafter. So it's not like he did nothing. Yeah. Like Jesus, if he was a figure, was probably a great teacher, and like a really good teacher. Yeah. But it doesn't mean he was a god. It means like that the legends can grow from these people. Yeah, Yorkshire Farmer, the Yogscast had a Terror from the Deep series where Yorkshire Farmer was their worst colonist by far. Their worst recruit by far. And Ben said, no, I'm going to train him up to be the best just to make you... Ben and Lewis are the two hosts of it. And Lewis said, we should just get this guy killed. And Ben said, no, I'm going to train this guy up to be the best soldier we have just to make you eat your words. And so he did... And you can't really choose to do that so much. Yeah. You can try to protect them a little bit, but Terror from the Deep, you lose a lot of people. Especially the way Ben plays. Which is a lot more fun, I think, really, to constantly lose colonists. Soldiers. Rather than just have a hit squad. Yeah. I think it's a lot more interesting to have an army, essentially. So Ben kept sending him on missions, and he just wouldn't die. He would get lucky, and he wouldn't die, and his skills would slowly go up, because you can train infinitely. Yeah. However, there's one stat in the game you can't train, and it's randomly determined at the very start of the game. And if you don't have it, your soldier is worthless. Yeah. And you can't see it until near the end of the game, which is their psychic resistance stat. Yeah. And so when they were learning the psychic resistance, it turned out that like bottle gnomes and I don't remember the names anymore, Banderbear and a bunch of these other people, they were amazing soldiers, but they were useless against psychic aliens because they had no psychic resistance. But it turned out that Yorkshire Farmer had perfect psychic resistance. So he became not only the best shot, but he also became their best soldier overall just because he was immune to psychics. So he could go into the middle of aliens, shoot them all, and they couldn't do anything about him. Yeah. And he just became a legend in his own right for that series. He didn't quite become a god like Arcadius, but it became the idea of, oh, we need to get this done. Send in Yorkshire Farmer. If we need a problem done, send in Yorkshire Farmer. And Yeah,
And he
that actually had
clean shot.
that had a bit of a funny story. They lost that campaign actually, because Yorkshire Farmer died. Because I donated and I had a character put into the game called Lord Cameron, and he killed Yorkshire Farmer. So I felt bad, even though I had done nothing.
Yeah.
Like, none of that was my fault. But the thing I will say about Lord Cameron, I'm pretty sure he had a bad loadout on purpose. I just wanted him to have a sword and a pistol.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he never missed with a pistol. Like, I don't think he missed once.
Yeah.
Including when he panicked and shot Yorkshire Farmer in the back. Because, like, he didn't have very good stats, but he just never missed. So they actually sent him on their top, like, he was Yorkshire Farmer's bodyguard because his stats weren't great, but he never missed. So it was just, wow, just sending them the old reliable. Because that's the great thing about games like XCOM. The stats aren't everything because the human ability to find patterns and myths. We create myths and legends. It doesn't matter if one guy has 90 shooting skill and the other guy has 80. You want the guy that never misses. It's superstition more than patterns, right? It's like, this is the guy that never misses. I'm going to use him even though his stats are worse because he never misses. Yeah. And it's really interesting how that, it's really cool. Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a problem with humans. I think it's a gift. It's like our capacity to create legends. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. And I want to keep it short today, actually, if that's all right. Unless you have something you're burning to.
Well, I had one thing, but I don't know how long it would go.
Okay.
I just have one thought, which I don't know if it's appropriate for this time. So.
Okay. Well, we can just stop here then, I guess. All right. But yeah, I just think the capacity for human legends is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And, goodbye.
Yeah. You've been a great audience. Goodbye.